and it's time to roll, baby, on MMAjunkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Go. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. We rollin'!
Covering MMA from all over the world, this is the premier stop for all your combat sports needs. MMAjunkie Radio, the only show broadcasting live from the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. The lights are on and the mics are hot. It's time to get your MMA fix, junkies. Take it away, Big John.
Gorgeous George and Coach, are you ready? Junkie Nation, are you ready? Well, let's get it on.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMAjunkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goes. Our East co-host. To my left, it's the fight analyst, Dan Tom. Back East producing, Jumbo Josh. What's up, guys?
What's up? What's going on?
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
All right. 2 more hours, and then we can go out there and paint the town pink.
What does that mean?
Well, have fun, relax, chill.
Why'd they pick red?
Speak for yourself.
Who says?
You can paint the town red, you can paint the town pink. I think
because I've heard
both.
red.
Yeah.
What does any of that mean?
Just go out and have a blast, party.
But there's no difference between the colors? Like, if I'm going to paint the town blue tonight, does it mean I'm going to the Rhino or like anything like that?
I don't know. That Urban Dictionary would come in handy for that one.
Urban Dictionary?
Yeah. Because next thing you know, we'll find out we're saying the wrong one. I wouldn't mind getting corrected on that one. I don't use it too often.
I've heard red.
Yeah?
Yeah. I've never heard pink, though.
Yeah, maybe I just messed it all up then.
Baby, we can just establish it. If you're painting the town green, it means you're spending a lot of cash.
You know, I've been thinking about something. I don't think I have a pink. I have a salmon color polo, but I don't think I have a pink either nice T-shirt or polo. And I think this weekend or soon I may go buy one. I've always liked pink, and
I have a lot.
There's a few fighters that have rocked it over the years, like a Rich Franklin or a Phil Davis. I mean, there's versions. There's the bright fuchsia. There's, like I said, the salmon or whatever. But
I believe your salmon is pink, though. I think I know what shirt you're talking about.
I like salmon, though. Salmon sounds...
I think guys can wear pink now.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a pink one. I think I know which one you're talking about.
All right, whatever. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's salmon, but I don't want to argue about this all day.
We're brown dudes, so those colors pop a little bit more on us.
How do you guys feel about salmon-colored golf pants?
Nope. Oh, wait, golf?
Have no problem with it.
I think you can do anything when you're what are they called?
On the golf course, yeah.
Golf course?
Yeah.
I think you can do just about anything. But if you're walking around in public with salmon pants, no.
You know who rocked a real cool outfit, I thought? I mean, I couldn't pull it off for sure. But did you see Anderson Silva post UFC 234? He came out and he had, like, it was a print on white. So, now my eyes are bad, but it almost looked like a plaid, I guess, with white being the base and then darker gray black colors. But I think he had a black turtleneck, so he went Steve Jobs on us. But he had some really cool shades that kind of went with it. And, well, yeah, it's definitely, I don't think neither one of us could rock it unless we were really,
Why don't you put some salmon in there, babies? What the hell?
Cooney
This
can
is
probably
Cooney
wear
over
like
here,
3 or
and
4
I wear
colors.
I wear salmon pants.
No,
What
you
the hell?
don't.
I do.
Salmon pants.
I'm a golfer. I wear salmon pants, and
You're a
nobody says
hacker.
a
You're
thing
not
to
a
me about it.
golfer.
You know why? Oh, you're a hacker? Is that what you said?
Yeah. What's
I'm
your...
gonna come hacking into you there, bro. I ain't like
all right.
that.
I'll be waiting for you in May, right? You guys are coming for Canelo?
Yes, we'll be there, bro.
I'll reserve
I'm
the
gonna
ring
come
for,
right
a
into your
couple
office.
for a couple rounds.
Couple rings?
I said I'll reserve the ring for a couple rounds.
I like that, bro. I like that a lot.
I think
something to show you.
Jerry Cooney can pull off maximum 5 colors.
Yeah.
The salmons, the fuchsias of the world, those are out. Those aren't going to happen.
Listen, they came out, the styles came out, they had all those light colors, salmon, light blue, lime, and they were hit there. They were hit for golf courses. But anyway, I understand how you feel because you guys are real men.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Have a great show, guys.
Right.
Love you guys, all right?
Love you too,
See you,
buddy.
fellas.
That was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
Jerry Cooney, man.
Salmon pants.
So many people packed our house when he fought Larry Holmes. Well, even in the fights leading up to that, everybody always points to that fight, but he had some other fights that led up to that point, and that was the one he got paid for the most.
I talked to them today a little bit during one of their breaks.
Oh, yeah?
And they are going to watch whatever the three of us decide are 3 Hagler-Hearns fights for mixed martial arts. They're going to watch them, and then they're going to pick one that they believe is the true representative.
When do you want to do that?
Whenever.
Okay. Listen, Bellator 215 is going to go off pretty soon. It starts at 9 p.m. Sorry, 9 Eastern. 6 Pacific. There you go. Ben Rothwell just texted me, and I got distracted. So I want to talk a little bit about that because it's literally going to go, but I feel like there could be anything we might add to anybody's parlay. Then I don't want to hold that back. But after that, we can initiate our talk about the Hagler-Hearns of MMA. And then we still have, the other full hour to go UFC on ESPN1 and then the Bellator card tomorrow, which is even, it's better than the one tonight, honestly, in my opinion. But tonight's does feature Matt Mitrione versus Sergey Karatanov. That's going to be the main event. You can watch it on Paramount or DAZN at 9 p.m. Eastern Start Time. That's the main card. Remember the prelims have been going on MMAjunkie for a while. So you can definitely catch that stream. But on the main card, you also have Austin Vanderford, which is Paige Van Zandt's husband. Goes and I saw him fight recently, about 2 months ago. He blasted some dude at the
Dana White's Contender Series.
No, it was a final fight.
Well, I saw him on Dana White's Contender Series.
Okay, yeah. Were you with me when I saw him at Final Fight?
I don't think
You
so.
may not have been there. At Final Fight, he blasted some dude. And I believe that may have been his last win. So he's on the fight card. The former bantamweight champion, Eduardo Dantas, he's on the fight card. He's fighting Tobias.
Tobster.
Tobes. Yeah.
Tobes was funny. Tobes is a little bit of a stretch.
Toby Misic. Logan Storley undefeated. He'll be fighting Ion Pascu. And again, Mitrione versus Sergey Karatanov. Who do you like in that one? Who did you pick in the main event breakdown? I can't remember. We did so many this week.
I took Matt Mitrione.
Okay.
He's kind of the Legends killer a little bit.
Well, tell me why.
I just feel like you always get an honest training camp out of that guy. And even when he loses, with the exception of maybe
why do you say that? You talk to people or what? Because he's way down in Boca Raton.
No. When he shows up, even when he loses, I don't feel like it's because he didn't. Yeah, like it was a slob or he didn't train for the fight. I feel like he gives you maximum effort in every single fight. And every time you see Karatanov, you just don't know who's going to show up. And not just that, but Karatanov's getting older, and
the other guy's older.
I know, but he's not showing it. And he's got NFL years. A lot of people don't think about that. Some of the years that those guys put on themselves in the NFL. But it's just, I just feel like he's going to beat him to the punch in this fight.
Yeah, early on in his career, like out of his first 7 wins, he had like 5 or 6 submissions. I wonder if Karatanov, because if I'm breaking down Mitrione, the one thing I'll say is what I've noticed over the years is on the ground, he's just a fish out of water. And I would see if my fighter has the skills to get the fight there, primarily wrestling. Now, Karatanov, in his last fight, he looked great. I mean, he really looked good. The fight before that, not so good. Am I talking Bellator here?
You're talking about his first one?
Okay. Yeah. There was a no contest with M1, and then he went back to Russian cage fighting or whatever. But there was a few fights there where I wasn't as impressed. Anyway, I did pick Mitrione on Monday or Tuesday whenever we did our breakdown. The more I think about it, I think Karatanov does have a chance in this fight.
Oh, yeah,
a real good chance. And when I look at the odds, it's like minus 110, minus 120. I don't know what the latest is. I'm telling you, man, I think I'd rather just sit back and let these guys throw down and watch it than disappoint myself by betting it. Because I'm not sure on either side. How about you, Dan Tom?
Complete opposite of you guys. The one podcast that was able
we like different guys.
What's that? Oh, you like Mitrione, I thought.
No, I think right now I like Sergey, yeah. On Monday I like Mitrione.
I like Mitrione.
Yeah, but I think Sergey's a guy that I think is going to really, really do well tonight. Well, I don't know. Yeah, if I were to do the whole thing again, I might lean towards Sergey today.
We'll put it this way. I broke down on Wednesday, I think it was, all the Bellator cards on the Protect Your Neck podcast, and I left with only one play that I'm making of all the cards. Only one line that's worthwhile. And I guess I'm not alone because, like I predicted, not only did I pick Sergey Kharitonov, even though you're not crazy for picking Matt Mitrione, he stylistically provides the same kind of sample size of things that have provided trouble with Sergey as far as striking or stoppage losses in MMA. You look at Alexander Emelianenko, Alistair Overeem in Pride, crucial back-to-back losses he sustained. But then you even look at Javi Ayala, say what you will. That guy's got some quality skins under his belt and is deceptively athletic. So in that first round, I think it's going to be trouble. And you look at Mitrione's stoppage wins. Most of them are stoppage. Most of them are in that first round. But not a lot after that. I don't know if Mitrione's a guy who's going to adjust or play the long game well when it comes to decisions. And Kharitonov gets steamed. Now, Kharitonov gets hit early. That's why it kind of makes you nervous if you're a supporter of his, like mine. But if you look at it, he recovers. He's always able to have good rounds after the rounds where he's stung. So you really got to stop the Russian bear, or he's going to gain steam. He's going to go to the body. And it's interesting. You know, he did lose some crucial. It's funny you guys are saying this because I'm like, you know, you guys have more of an accurate timeline, especially for that Pride era. Where when I'm going back and watching his timeline, like, yeah, he lost a crucial fights at crucial times. Where I'm like, I bet you this guy gets. That's why this guy gets underrated on the odds so much. And you look at the odds history, Kharitonov is traditionally really underrated. And when he went over to Glory, guys, he really took a step up. You know, yeah, he's 2 years younger, but you guys are right. He's got those career miles. But you look at maybe his third quarter of his career, maybe about like 34, 35. Old dogs learn new tricks, not all the time, but he did that. He went to Holland, Golden Glory, and you look at him when he's fighting in these Glory kickboxing fights. Like, his skills jump between those fights. So I think Matt Mitrione's got a fight on his hands. You're going to give me dog money for a heavyweight.
What's the latest?
They're minus 110, but like I predicted, Kharitonov opened as a slight favorite. That's where my analysis landed as well. But I predicted I'm going to wait for a play because I knew Matt Mitrione's name is going to carry over. It's going to bring the betting line to make him a favorite. As soon as it did, I guess I wasn't the only sharp pulling the trigger on that, and we'll see. We'll see how sharp it is, of course, later tonight, guys. But that is my one play, if that means anything as far as all the Bellator goes.
All right, there you have it, folks. Sergey Kharitonov, I mean, that's how split we are. Mitrione, man, he's turned into a really, really solid kickboxer. And he can ice anybody. But Sergey's been around the block, for sure. And he's faced a lot of top-quality competition. And, boy, has he stayed busy, even on outside of Bellator. You know, we keep thinking, a lot of us keep thinking, like I'm basically saying me, that Bellator is where he's been, had his bread buttered the last few years, but he has stayed busy a lot outside of that a lot. So credit to Bellator for allowing him to go out there and just continue to stay sharp.
The only thing that kind of scares me in that matchup is really, has he been able to get out of what Bader did to him out of his head? Like, if I were Kharitonov, I would shoot immediately in that fight just to kind of put that back into his head and have him think, man, I don't want to end up here again. Because you're right, his kickboxing has gotten better. That's his bread and butter.
Yeah, that is curious, too, especially if he gets corralled to the fence, because even though Matt Mitrione is still one of the best athletic movers at heavyweight, he's still not beyond getting corralled to the fence, which has kind of been his kryptonite, right? Yeah. And Kharitonov's got those sambo trips, man. You don't have to be too young and youthful. It's not like he has to change levels for the double to maybe get it there, so that's a good point.
There was one time where Sergey Kharitonov KO'd Semi Schilt. So as much as I can talk about Mitrione's kickboxing, I mean, he's gone up against great guys who have either a kickboxing background or have been a world kickboxing champion, or they can just kick hard, like Pedro Hizzo. He went down as well years ago. Alistair Overeem, he's got some wins. Andrei Arlovsky, there's some names there that he stockpiled over the years. He deserves respect. That's why it's a quality main event, and Bellator fans, MMA fans should tune in. It's funny because there's a lot of MMA going on this weekend, including Invicta as well. And I had the iPad charged up all the way to 100. I was going to put it right here so we can watch it as we did the show.
Nice.
Because one of them's on the UFC Fight Pass, and the other one we could pick up on DAZN. I forgot it.
It's good thinking. The iPad comes in useful.
I was so mad, and I don't use that baby too often, but Today would have been perfect.
I eavesdropped on a Twitter conversation between our own Ben Folks and Reed Kuhn, I think his name is, the analyst guy.
Yeah.
And he was talking, and he cooks a lot of, I don't want to say as well because I don't cook as much anymore, but he had a really good idea. It's like, because I'll operate stuff in the kitchen, and it's tough because I have my laptop, right, and when I'm making my dog's food or mine, he's like, you bring the iPad in there, kind of like how George demonstrated. You just kind of set it right there and takes up less space, makes it a little bit of an easier view. And I was like, oh, this is a really good use for those things. Because when it first came out, I was a hater. I'm like, well, come on, this is just trying to sell you crap. But there's good uses for it.
I like putting it on in my room on the TV. I put like YouTube or Fight Pass or something, and I just play it as I'm like making my bed and shit like that, doing stuff like that.
There you go. Yeah.
Do they have odds here for Bellator as well?
No, unless they just started that.
UFC, huh?
It's very. They used to do it, and then they just stopped doing it.
Oh, I go maybe lay another bet. Depending if they have those
since
numbers.
You examined the card, what about Eduardo Dantas? I used to be a big fan of his. Then he kind of ran into some of the North Americans, and he wants to be a world champion again. Can he? You think he can?
Should I answer that now, or should I wait for the...
that could be an other, huh? Okay, I got you. But do you like him to win tonight?
Yeah, I do, and I actually was at his opponent's last fight, Tobster, in Hawaii, Bellator, Hawaii, and it was a good fight. It was one of the more fun fights, actually, that night, believe it or not. Low-key had a nice third-round finish in there, so always got love for the Hawaiian fighters, but yeah, the pick is Dantas here. And it's tough. I didn't get to run Dantas through the full comb per se, but watching his last fight, his last couple, I just think he needs that breakthrough performance, and it's tough because he has deceptively tough guys. Bantamweight, even though bantamweight, especially in the UFC, you're getting high knockout percentages, and it's a weight class that I definitely love. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the same way within Bellator, the matches that he's fought, or with his style, because I compare it to like a more of a Rafael Assunção of his own division over there in Bellator. Real technical, low key, can kind of do everything, but he's not necessarily stockpiling the highlight reel. And again, I got to go run him through the whole comb. He's more of a guy that so far kind of comes up on when I'm researching the other guy. You always see Dantas on the other side, so he comes up in my tape study. But I haven't got time to run them full, which is the real fun stuff about breaking down these Bellator fights. Like I said earlier, I get to go through guys like whether guys I thought I was familiar, like Karatanov or Daley, or these new guys like Page. Man, it's super fun.
Okay, I got another question for you. Vanderford is a high favorite, but so is Logan Storley. But I think Storley has more of a story within Bellator. Vanderford just signed with them, right?
Yeah.
So my question to you is, Bellator does tend to matchmake in a way where when they want to build someone up, you'll notice it. That's why these odds are reflective. And when there's an upset, maybe there's that big gush on Twitter and in the arena.
Yeah.
Because like, whoa, you were expecting this one to be next, in air quotes or whatever, and it doesn't happen. Can this Ion Pascu trouble Logan Storley, or is he just in for a rough night and is Logan Storley there to shine? Like, does he have a kryptonite to Logan Storley?
Low key, he can, because Ion Pascu's been around. He actually comes from a wrestling base. I'm not sure how deep it goes. He's from Romania, right? And he's a real stocky southpaw. Used to fight at middleweight, right? So you're like, okay, on paper, and he can hit. You're like, well, that sounds like a terrible matchup. A veteran, a guy from middleweight, a southpaw. He can wrestle, he can hit. Against a guy like Storley, who, again, he's training with great guys over at, Henry Hoof, 360, Hard Knocks 365. He's putting in the work. He's putting in hard sparring sessions. He posts them on Instagram, but Storley hasn't really had to show it, right? And good for him. I'm glad. Stick to your wrestling. I wish more wrestlers kind of did that, so that's not a knock by any means, but you look at it and you're like, okay. But when I went and looked at some of Pascu's fights, even his earlier fights, I'm like, oh, well, he beat a good wrestler like Jack Hermanson, and that guy's a big middleweight, and he's a good grappler, and he gets on top of you, it's done. He was able to beat that guy, but you go back and look at the fight, he was doing most of it on the feet. It was more of against a much more green Jack Hermanson at the time. This is back at Cage Warriors, right? And he actually ended up kind of gassing out and kind of giving away the fight, and maybe it was because of the musculature. And, you see that earlier in a guy's career when he's younger, more athletic. Now he's kind of more older, a veteran, cutting down a weight class. You got to wonder how's that gas tank going to hold up in the later rounds, especially against a grinding guy like Storley. And then I went back and I watched his later fights, and He's a really talented guy on Pascu, by the way. I don't want to diminish him by any means, but I didn't see that jump in skills. Whereas Storley, we still don't know where he is, but we've got enough of a story, like you said, George, and for me, enough of a sample size to go back and look and go, oh wow, he just fought a guy who was a former middleweight and is a southpaw. Oh, he actually had, fought similar types. If you actually go in his record and watch those decision wins, which weren't the most exciting things. They were on undercards, kind of wrestled his way to decisions. But you know me, I appreciate that style, and so I think it's a justified number.
All right, so maybe there's a little as long as I know the guy's got a little chance, then there's a shot for a little parlay piece there.
Yeah, remember what happened there in Pico, right?
Careful.
Yeah. I just don't want to lay $750 to win 100 on Logan Storley. Why am I going to risk $750 of my money to win 100 or $75 to risk 10? You see what I'm saying? Like,
if you're ever going to do that, that person needs to at least have at some point had a belt on. Like, there has to be something that tells you over a period of time they're just solid.
Yeah, I can easily just turn the page and find me an LFA fighter, an Invicta fighter, a Bellator 216 fighter, a UFC on ESPN1, a cage where there's so much to gamble on. It's really, really great times. You don't ever want to do something foolish like that. You just catch the next Logan Storley fight. You know what I mean? But $750 is a lot in this sport. 4-ounce gloves.
And let me ask you guys in regards to, you mentioned the matchmaking. What's your guys' temperature on that? Like, for example, obviously Rich Chu's the matchmaker, great guy, trained, fought, experienced due to the sport, much respect. And he kind of matchmake for Coker and Strikeforce. You know, you see kind of similar matchmaking you guys are talking about. Now, there are kind of some critics like, oh, we know who's going to win this one, and there's that critique you could have on it. But I would argue, guys, I've actually become a bigger fan of his style of matchmaking in the sport, especially when you see, like over in the UFC, when maybe we see guys get that fast rise a little too fast because they're not playing around in the UFC. Everybody's a dangerous fight. That's not hyperbole, right, guys?
Right.
So I almost kind of appreciate that stance and building guys, and it's cool because it makes guys like a Pico, if you get out of line and you think you're just going to walk through everybody, you will be checked because, like you guys said, these upsets they don't happen all the time, but they happen enough to where, again, I would argue it defends the style of matchmaking because it's not like they're giving these guys nobodies. On paper it looks that way, but these upsets happen, right, guys?
Yeah. So, do I like his style? It pays off every once in a while, enough that I'm not against it. But, like, for example, AJ McKee. Come on already.
Right.
What are we waiting for with that guy? You know what I mean? Look at Ed Ruth, got Neiman Gracie at, 6-0, 7-0?
Michael Page for a second.
And so I don't know if that was his way of adjusting or maybe because the Grand Prix forced his hand. But AJ McKee, I think his whole career's been Bellator. I think he's up to like 13 or 14-0.
Yes, sir.
And yet we're not, only recently when we brought it up did we say, hey, look, AJ McKee could be part of a Grand Prix, a world title, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So, I don't hate on it, and the UFC matchmaking, it's hard to even call it matchmaking right now because they're just way at the top. It's just ching ching. You know what I mean? What's the biggest fight we can make? There's no rhyme or reason. Towards the middle, yeah, I like it. I think Sean Shelby and Mick Maynard kind of do a good job of using either a veteran to put over the younger guy,
right,
or two veterans, or every once in a while, this is the one I kind of dislike, the two young guys or young gals.
Yeah.
Like I like to build them up and always have a stockpile of at least 3 that you can point at for every champion. Like if you go, who's going to fight Cejudo next? I can go Benavidez, the winner of Davison Figueiredo or Jussier Formiga,
right.
Then I'd be short on who the third guy would be right now. Same thing with bantamweight. You got the winner of Sterling or Rivera. You got Marlon Moraes, or I guess even Cejudo if he goes. I like to have those types of answers.
I agree, and for all the criticisms you could lobby, you're right. You have a solid pool you can draw from, and again, that's not me trying to overly pump up Bellator or take a shot at UFC. I think UFC is the gold standard for everything, including that. But I just thought it was an interesting topic for the Bellator thing. But just to add on to that, like here's a matchup that I don't like. I don't know if this fits your thing, George. You just said with 2 young guys, but Vicente Luque versus Brian Barberina. Now, I'm a Brian Barberina mark, so that probably has a lot of reason why I don't like that fight for him. He's the biggest dog on that card for UFC Phoenix, right?
Is he really?
Yeah, but I don't like because he's kind of win-loss guy. He's always taking those tough fights. You look at it like, they're giving him the Worley Alves when he's on his rise, Colby Covington when he's on his rise. Like, he's getting tough fights and he's winning some of them. Yeah. Leon Edwards, who's no joke, because he's just one of those dudes, which is why I'm a fan. He'll just take the fights. But you look at it, you're like, man, he hasn't fought since that Jake Ellenberger win in Nebraska last year. And now he's coming into this matchup where it's no easy thing. Luque is on that level where I think he's only lost one decision. Instead, Leon Edwards, another again tough guy, and he's finished everybody. He's on this crazy like 5-fight or something winning streak, and it sucked because even though I love Brian Barberena and I just put him over, so to speak, a win over Brian Barberena is not going to do him crap. Buried on the card. You know what I'm saying? It's just one of those matches where I'm like, these guys. It's a more tougher matchup. Even though I'm picking Luque, it's a more tougher matchup than the odds represent. But it's like both those guys, no matter what the outcome, are going to gain very little for what they're risking.
It's almost like you could have co-main evented them in Prague in a week or two, right? Rather than bury them on ESPN.
Yeah, there you go. That too as well. You know, at least give it maybe even a better spot if you're going to make them cancel each other out, so to speak.
Yeah. All right. Remember, Bellator live listeners. Bellator 215 starts in about half an hour. So there, we touched on a few fights right there. We give you guys a few picks. You can watch the fights on Paramount and DAZN starting at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. So again, that's in about half an hour. Right now, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about Bellator 216, which takes place tomorrow. Plus, there's a little bit of news to hit, and we sure would love to take your calls at 877-FIGHT93. That's 877-FIGHT93. Let us know what you're looking forward to the most with all the MMA action that's ahead of us.
They were kicked off the set of The Fast and the Furious for being too loud and too good-looking. Once again, here's Gorgeous George and Goes.
All right. Tonight at 9 Eastern, it's the World, Team World versus Team USA in the Rising Stars game from All-Star Weekend in Charlotte on NBA Radio Series 207 and XM86 and streaming on your phone or at home on Sirius XM connected devices and speakers. That should be interesting. The World has produced really, really good basketball players in the last few years. Not just Europe, but Asia, South America, mostly Europe, but I mean, I'm telling you, I'm impressed by a lot of the talent I see on other teams. I wonder why the Lakers haven't had as much success in that department. It's NBA All-Star Weekend, so I'm sure there's lots going on. 86 should be one of the channels you lock in on this weekend. Shout out to those guys. I catch them a lot from time to time. All right, so Goes gave us a homework assignment 2-3 days ago. He said, hey, guys, pick a fight that you could say is similar to the Hagler-Hearns of boxing. Marvin Hagler and Tommy Hearns fought in 1985 in a 3-round fight that is still talked about as one of the greatest fights ever. Now, they only went 3 rounds out of a possible 12, but still, we had our fill after, within the 9 minutes. And so I thought, okay, that's pretty cool. Now, Goes and I would have argued all day if we really wanted to settle on criteria. So I just did my own criteria. I feel like I can say it. And then you guys can either nod and fist bump or just tell me to go to hell. So with that, if I may, can I lead off? Or since it was your idea, would you like to?
Can I just say one thing?
Sure.
The criteria, I think now at this point, the only thing I would really stress is there had to be a finish in the fight.
Okay.
But now, like 2.3 rounds, 3 rounds, all that shit, just as long as there's a finish.
Okay, cool. And so let me eliminate a fight right now just using that.
Uh-oh. Okay.
McDonald and Lawler.
Yeah.
That had a great round 4 and round 5, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But the first couple rounds weren't as exciting. If you ever rewatch it, and it went to a finish, but I think it may have even been a World MMA Award either nominee or winner or whatever. So that one would go out because it went to a distance.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, it wasn't going to be mine anyway. But
So the rounds, in other words, just to clarify, it could be 1, 3. It doesn't matter in that sense.
Now, I mean, if you want to be picky, what I would say is if it's a 5-round fight, try not to go over 3 rounds. If it's a 3-round fight, maybe 2.5 at the most.
Here's where I think people have the problem, because the reference, whether it's in boxing or MMA, the consistent reference is that was the Hagler-Hearns round. And when they say that, they're ignoring the fact that we're in round 2 where it could go more than 1 round. So they're ignoring the round in that sense. Mm-hmm. But the overall point of the comment, I would argue, right, guys, is they are focusing on that round because I guess
the whole fight, all 3 rounds were great.
Yeah, it started off.
All 3 rounds were great.
Well, yeah, I guess like the first round, like for example, like just that first round housed more violence than a round. I'm stealing on my own words here. It housed more violence than a round should hold, and that was kind of my.
For Hagler-Hearns, or for the fight you're going to give us?
When I was doing a round of the year, not to step on my pick or anything, but when I was doing round of the year, I'm like, okay, what fight, held more violence in a round, and what's the gold standard? Well, the gold standard was Hagler-Hearns, so I went back to watch Hagler-Hearns. I haven't done it recently, so I'm sorry. I'm pulling up
Steel Kraus,
pulling up this, pulling this up. But yeah, I just figured it was to a round. Okay, so yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. What you're saying.
All right, so here we go. So the only criteria I was thinking of was in my opinion, you should pick 2 big fighters because Hagler-Hearns were 2 big fighters. Mm-hmm. They're in multiple halls of fames, Hall of Fames, I should say, in the sport of boxing, and they both won respected world titles. 2, it should have been. Hopefully, you guys pick a title fight. And again, I'm not going to be strict on this because it wasn't my homework assignment, but that technically was a title fight. So, whatever. The next one is, here's the tough one. You can either pick a 3-round MMA fight, which would be a complete non-main event or non-title fight, or, but 3 rounds in boxing is only 1/4 of the fight, or you could pick a fight like Goes said that lasted about a round, because then it would be almost the same. It didn't have to go the distance. It just shined, and it was only a fraction of the whole fight. And then lastly, I think it should be one that obviously goes back and forth. I think that's kind of a given. So I present to you all Nick Diaz versus Paul Daley. That fight went back and forth at least 3 times each, where one guy was like, oh, my God, he's going to finish the other one. And it went back and forth until eventually Nick Diaz got the finish. It didn't exit round 1. It got really damn close, but it didn't. Therefore, it was 1/3 of the total. Well, no, it was going to be a title fight. Sorry, it was 1/5 of what was going to be the fight. This was 1/4 of what was going to be the whole fight. It had 2 big fighters. It was for a title fight because Nick Diaz was defending his Strikeforce welterweight title. It's 2 big fighters. There is a Hall of Fame, so I don't know. I'm pretty sure Nick Diaz will be in a Hall of Fame for some reason or another. I don't know if Paul Daley will be. But Paul Daley to this day is still fighting in big fights. So I may have come up short in terms of like that iconic legend
title
thing or whatever. But I still feel like I hit a lot of other check marks there.
It's a good one, and it's the one. That's the one that I was telling you. I've heard over
Makes
and
sense.
over. I think that's going to probably be the one that ends up being.
And how about outside the box?
World.
I didn't even have to go to the UFC.
Yeah. Mine is not within the UFC as well. And it features a guy that you just mentioned. That's why you scared the shit out of me when you said that. I am going Nick Diaz, Takanori Gomi.
Oh, wow.
Pride 33. Fight went 2 1/4 rounds, back and forth. And one of the similarities, when you think about it, Hagler had that bad cut on his eye, and so did Nick Diaz. He had 2 of them. And they were getting close to
How do you know, Goes?
Nick Diaz had the cuts?
Yeah.
Watch the fight.
No, well, we ran into him in the hotel later.
Oh, no, I bought him Subway after the fight.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. So afterwards, I guess I could tell that story. We ran into him at Subway, and he looked like Frankenstein. And it was one of the – was our friend the one that stitched him up or not?
Maybe.
No, I think our friend said they didn't do a very good job.
Okay.
But, yeah, it was a very bad cut. There were 2 of them, and that was getting close to being stopped. And I'm not saying Hagler's was on the verge of getting stopped, but it was bad enough where they had to kind of take a look at it. So that's my pick. How about you, Dan Tom?
Oh, I feel so dumb. I told Ghost I was listening to the show when I was off those days, and I was like, oh, I want to jump in on that topic. I love that, and I didn't act. I was so inundated with just so many fights this week, guys. My brain is much. I apologize. I didn't even remember how many rounds Hagler Hearns was just now because I didn't have time to go back and watch it. And now that we're kind of establishing the terms, I'm like, oh, I agree. No,
let it marinate because you might have about 10, 15 minutes, and we'll take some calls. And then if you have one to share, great. Or do you have one? Did you come up with one or not yet?
Well, could I co-sign with why I think yours is going to be the best one?
Oh, sure.
Is because
please
I thought that was going to be his.
Take your time.
Well, because again, I don't think the title fight implications is too important. You know, you had Hagler, who was controversial title, title lead-ups at that point, wasn't quite proven. I'm trying to look for odds, but I want to believe Hagler was the dog, and Hagler was the pressure-fighting, shift-stancing striker. They thought he was going to maybe go southpaw because he had to get in on the longer, more pinpoint striker. That was Tommy Hearns, and though Paul Daley wasn't longer, he was more pinpoint. He might not have been favored. He was the more dangerous striker in that equation, showed that he was by dropping and hurting Nick Diaz, just like Hagler was hurt early. You needed momentum swings, but the guy who won the fight was the guy who got hurt first. If you remember, Hagler is real stunned in his tracks in that first round early. Another key thing of the fight, clinch. There was clinching. Richard Steele wasn't allowing for the clinching, but it was almost adding to it because you were like, oh, breathe. He's got to breathe. He's got to survive. Because it was going back and forth, and he kept breaking it. Whereas who was the rep? Todd Anderson was actually allowing, for my round of the year, which wouldn't be my pick because these guys aren't big enough, but they were actually allowing Thiago Maheta Santos and Jimmy Manoa to clinch. I'm rambling on, but that's a great pick.
Oh,
and because the way the clinch, that's what I was rounding off to. The way the clinch goes in, there was a little quiet work. I was recently rewatching that fight. You think you know that fight, but I was recently watching that fight when I had to break down Daley for 216, and you look, and Diaz is landing little shots in the body that's quietly turning the tide because you're like, wait a minute, why is Daley all woozy? Like the
Daley almost kicked him in the head, remember? Like
Pride
style?
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, what are you doing? Like, and I'm thinking, you saw this already, George. Like, why are you acting like, did the ref see it or not? Which was Big John McCarthy, by the way. But yeah, Manoa and Santos, I need to rewatch that. That was such a violent sounding fight. It was, ooh, man, I don't know if those guys will be the same, but that was something else, that fight. All right, we got to take some calls, so let's do that. Tell us, folks, what is your Hagler Hearns of MMA? It's simple, 877-5 Fight 93. All right, who do we have goes? Hal from Chicago. He's in a bat leadoff. What's up, Hal? What you got?
This is Ricky Henderson because it's going out of the park. You know what I mean?
All right.
This is the leadoff hitter.
Ricky Henderson, another thing he was good at was stealing bases. So even if he didn't go yard, he stole a lot of bases. And I think he holds the record for most walks, too. He holds like 3 or 4 major records that a lot of people don't know about.
And giving shitty autographs, right?
That, too.
Go ahead.
All right. I was going to go. Can I give a B? Can I give what almost made the cut?
Sure. I don't know if it's fair because then somebody that's on hold is going to go, man.
Well, you said the other day we waxed them, though. I think we've waxed them a couple times where we're right at the end. We go, Hal, sorry, that's all we got. Go ahead, Hal.
Go ahead.
All right, fine. All right, so I won't give it then. I'm just going to give you my pick.
No, I want to hear it. What's your B?
Chandler. Oh, okay.
Damn it.
I was going to say Fresh. My first instinct was Francisco Rivera versus John Lineker. You guys remember that? Crazy farm.
Oh, yeah. Crazy fight.
Slugfest.
UFC 191.
Slugfest. And, yeah, Lineker finally ends it with his, freaking break hands. But they went back and forth. There were knockdowns. It was, as soon as the bell rung, it was like Fry versus, Takayama, except with way more technique, Anyway, my pick is...
Great pick.
We're going for Bellator. It's Bellator night.
Damn.
It's Bellator night, so... And it's appropriate that my pick is Michael Chandler versus Eddie Alvarez.
That's great.
Round 3?
It's a good one.
Round 1?
No, the whole fight.
Oh,
the whole fight. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great fight.
And
That's
then
a
with
great
the
pick.
finish in the 4th.
Yeah, it had a finish. It was a title fight, 2 big names. I'm pretty sure both will go in a Hall of Fame of some sort. So yeah.
What a night of fights that was watching.
Really good stuff, Hal.
All right, man.
All right. Thanks.
All right. It's Cain tomorrow. Later.
Who's next goes?
After him, we have Brandon from Louisville.
What's up, Brandon?
Hey.
Hey, guys. How's it going tonight?
Brandon.
All right. Before I get into this, MMA community lost a legend and icon this week, and I just want to say rest in peace to Stitch Duran's mustache.
Oh.
Yeah, it did look kind of weird, right?
What happened?
It did, but I think he just shaved it.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Was it for charity or
I don't know why he did it, but I asked him not too long ago. Like I gave him one of our many what ifs, and he would not budge on it.
That's what I'm thinking. It had to be for charity, or
still have his magic powers.
A huge bet or something. Yeah.
Well, I was going to come in here and I had a pick, and then I hate to agree with Gigi. It was Diaz Daley. It was the best one-round fight ever, hands down. They both went back and forth. They slowed it out. There was a finish right at the buzzer. I did just rewatch it just to make sure I wasn't propping it up from old memories, because it was 7 years ago this year. 8 years ago this year. And it still holds up to this day.
Yeah. And it's funny, Daley's still fighting. Nick Diaz really, really could fight. He's only mid-30s. He's not right now. Sounds like he might be retired, but Daley's still chugging along. But Daley had a lot of power in his punches, man. He put Diaz down a couple times, and Diaz kind of got almost in a turtle position. But, he's a veteran. He was able to get out of it. But I'm telling you, man, that thing went back and forth. It was nice.
So is this just from a striking perspective, or is this MMA? Can we put it more on a grapple?
Pick a grappling
all around. Fedor Randleman.
I mean, it's just like if a random person just goes, hey, man, that's a Hagler Hearns, I think people are going to start to say, well, I think that played out a little differently. I get where you're going, though.
Well, just the other day, I thought Ortiz and Benavidez, who did go the distance, showed a lot of high-level grappling. Fedor and Randleman had a moment, but I'd have to go back and rewatch and see just how much grappling there were. Are you just zeroing in on that sequence?
Probably, yeah, because it's been forever since I've seen it. But that is always the...
Yeah, so the only thing we can do at this point is see if Josh can scrub that part of Brandon's call out, because that just doesn't fly. But the Diaz Daley's great, and the mustache joke was all spot on. stuff from Brandon from Louisville.
I love grappling swings in action. To what Goes was saying, and Brandon, and they definitely have their own place. But you're right. In this kind of a talk, there's something special about a striking exchange, even when it's not two title guys. Let's look at Shane Young and Austin Arnett this last weekend. I don't know if you guys remember that fight. Those were very boxing-like rounds. Remember?
Australia.
Yeah, with Shane Young, the longer guy, he's picking them apart and bloodying even up Shane Young. And you're like, oh, this guy's winning the round. Look at Austin Arnett turning it up. And then at the end of the rounds, he's coming on strong and hitting over the top. Like it was very that boxing momentum, right? I had it for Shane Young, 29-20. I think he did enough to steal the rounds.
So did I, but a lot of people were disagreeing, and they were taking Arnett, and I was like, and I forgot to really bring it up because it didn't get talked about too much.
I think it was a mix between the visual damage that was there to whatever anybody's predisposition thought, because Arnett was a bigger dog than he probably should have been. I was on Shane Young, but Arnett's, man, he's quietly improved, and he wasn't getting respect.
When the underdog actually makes it a close fight,
yes.
When you get to the end, it's almost like people want to side with the dog that shouldn't have even been there.
Cejudo Johnson.
Human psychology.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Just want to do it.
All right, who else? Who else?
Mark from Toronto.
What's up, Mark? How you doing?
Hey guys, pretty good. Just wanted to mention, I thought the same as the last caller too, Random and Fedor, and I was thinking Fujita, Fedor, but maybe they were just short moments in fights. But the one I came up with was Edgar versus Maynard 3.
Ooh.
Back and forth. Maynard dropped Edgar a few times. A lot of grappling. A lot of stand-up. A lot of wrestling. It was an epic fight.
Frankie got the finish in round 4.
I think it was finished in the 4th. Yeah.
I mean, it was back and forth.
Yeah.
I feel like the rounds were back and forth in both their second and third fights, and not to S on the point at all. By the way, I love that fight. Definitely, worthy pick. But if my memory serves, it was more back and forth in the rounds, kind of one-way traffic in each round. Because Maynard would come strong and blast him in both the fights right early, but then he also took the second rounds off, and Frankie would fight his way. It was very formulaic. It's just Frankie ended up popping off the finish come the third one, right? So.
Yeah. I really was convinced in those days that Maynard was going to be a world champion.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I tip my hat to Frankie Edgar. Somebody tripping in here?
Yeah.
Huh. Go bank that guy up.
I'll be back.
Make sure security's... He's being escorted out.
That's the good old days. Remind me back in my day when I used to work security. I have a. You see how they're escorting him out. I have a funny story of that one time. I like that. I like that they had him. They had his posture broken. That's really smart.
Use that as a teaser. Dan Tom will share his story.
Here we go.
When we come back, it's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 83.
Blah, blah, blah. Here are those two dummies, George and Goes.
All right, we're going to double tease. That was a really great story that Dan Tom just told me. And I don't want to be rushed against the top of the hour break. So let's do Marco. We'll set up the second hour, and then we'll start off with Dan Tom's street fight story, which he's never shared in the 10 years that we've known him. First as a listener, now as a co-host. So it'll be a good one, folks. I already got caught most of it right now, but damn. Good stuff. All right, Marco from Waco. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Marco from Waco. ¿Qué pasa, Atos?
Not much. Relax, man. Slow down. You got time.
I guess I'm the designated hitter at the fourth spot to clean up the races. Huh?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Hey, so, real quick, when you talk about the Lakers and international players, I keep thinking Vladdy Divac and Paul Gasol. Don't know why.
Vladdy Divac, baby, yeah.
Well, those are really old school names. Those are really, really good names.
Vladdy.
But I'm telling you right now, man, there's a lot of great European players in the NBA.
Vladdy Divac, man. Him and George Mears on my pound for pound. Sorry.
On those Hagler Hearns fights, I got Duho Choi Cox Ransom honorable mention, but I kept thinking John Jones 2001 because that was iconic for a title. We talked about the fight for so many years before the rematch, so that was my pick.
Okay, that one went to a decision though, but he did. He's right. A lot of good stuff. It did go back and forth. It was a really, really great fight. Who was the first one? Dooho Kim and who?
Dooho Choi, Cub Swanson.
Dooho Choi and
Cub Swanson.
I thought about that.
Did that go the distance?
No finish, but it was a good back and forth classic.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a good one too between was it Zombie and Leonard Garcia? Wait.
Poirier, the insane round where they're doing like the backflip and
London, I think,
or the back tumble.
And then there was another good one. And here's where I'm gonna need your guys' help. WEC, I could have sworn it was Yves Jaboué.
Yeah, Mark Hominick.
This up today.
It's one of my favorite fights.
Yeah.
One of my favorite fights ever.
Yeah.
Okay, but it got ruled out. Actually, I think it was Hal that brought that up.
Did he really?
But he ruled himself out because it just wasn't name power the way.
Yeah, what am I
Although it was a Canadian turf war. Those were like two top Canada guys. I think they're supposed to fight in TKO back in the day in the fight. But yeah, it wasn't big for beyond hardcore.
Marco.
I'm gonna give you my fight team parlay for the weekend.
Oh, let's hear it.
I got Mitrione tonight by knockout.
Okay.
I got Daley tomorrow by knockout. Give me Rivera by decision, Paul Felder by decision, and then Ngannou by knockout on the first. I don't like Cain Velasquez been out for 2.5 years. I just saw Ngannou knockout, Curtis Blades, that is also as good as a wrestler as Cain is. And if Cain doesn't get his rhythm early on the first, he's going to get knocked out. So give me Ngannou.
Repeat it one more time. Repeat it one more time.
Mitrione.
Okay.
Daley.
That's one I missed.
Jimmy Rivera. Felder. And then Ngannou.
Wow. I mean, you picked the top fights of the weekend. That's tough. You could go 5-0, 0-5. I don't know. All right, good stuff, Mark. What does it pay? Did you do the math or no?
No, you always do the calculator for me, so I see you. If you're going to do it, I'll appreciate it. Peace out, man.
It's 20-1 on 5-teamer. And I'll tell you right now, because I have bestfightodds.com opened up. Mitrione he's a pick'em. Felder, I believe, was a pick'em. What's he up to? He's becoming the dog, guys.
Really?
Vic money's coming in, yeah.
Alrighty.
Ngannou is a dog. Mitrione is, I just said that.
Even, right?
What's Rivera?
Rivera should be a favorite. Slight, right?
Slight favorite.
Yep.
And Daley is big dog. That could pay about 30-1, maybe.
Woo!
Or 25-1. Which means if you put 100, you could win 2,500.
Good luck, Marco from Waco.
250. Marco from Waco. Good stuff. All right, great stuff. Please call in if you have more Hagler-Hearn comparisons in our sport of MMA. So far, we've gotten Chandler Alvarez, Diaz Daley, Jones versus Gus #1, and Frankie versus Maynard 3. All right, folks, it's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 93. We'll be right back.
Hit us up on Twitter.com at MMA Junkie Radio. This is MMA Junkie Radio. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
All right, so we covered Bellator 215. It's starting right now on DAZN and Paramount. Gave you some picks there. Dan Tom really feels strong about Sergey Kharitonov in the main event. I lean that way later in the week as well. Goes is riding with Mitrione on this one. Check it out. There's back-to-back Bellators. There's a Bellator 216 card tomorrow. We'll kind of touch on that in just a bit. We still got John Morgan coming up as well. He'll be calling in from Arizona. He's out there covering UFC on ESPN1 for us. But Dan Tom gave us a doozy of a street fight story because we had a little bit of a ruckus here in the Mandalay Bay. I don't know if you guys heard a voice. Somebody was just not playing by the rules, and security was escorting him out. And it reminded Dan Tom of his days as a security detail, I guess, at the Encore, right?
Yeah.
At the Encore Hotel here in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Tell us what happened.
It was about a decade ago now. Wow, 2009, right? And it was the midnight to 8 a.m. shift, so you're going to get a lot of drunks, a lot of runoff from the club. That's what we were kind of there to assist. It wasn't the big Samoan guys. We weren't the EMTs. We were just the Encore security guys in suits with the earpieces, and that comes into play in the story. We have to escort a gentleman like you guys just heard happening here, right? And they look like they're doing a really good job at it. But this guy wasn't quite to that belligerent level. Like, you guys probably heard him on the mics even, you listeners there. Like, this guy wasn't quite screaming that much. But we knew something was going to happen. He was a big guy, so we're following him out, walking him out of property, right at those cobblestone, drive-ups.
What was he doing, just yelling at people? Or?
Yeah, I think there was an issue with the room and stuff. He was drunk, and you can't gain access to a room without ID or this or that, and he didn't have any of his stuff on him. And he's a big... guy about like 6'3", pretty full-size dude. So we're walking out, and I'm a smaller than security guard, so I'm more of an outside flank, right? And more of one of our bigger guys, Scotty, right? He's about 6'3", but like about 300 pounds heavier dude, glasses. We get out to the cobblestone floors. He just turns around. I think he just realizes he's kind of lost the battle. He's been escorted out, and maybe he thinks he's off property. I don't know his thoughts. He turns around and just socks Scotty to where Scotty's glasses go into his eye, actually cut around his eye. And I remember going behind the guy to kind of body lock him, and I remember taking a shot. Like, he just one of those, the worst shots I've ever taken in street fights, by the way, are always the shots not meant for me, when they're swinging back to hit somebody else and getting me. Like, those are the worst shots I've taken in fights. Not street fights, I just get my ass kicked in the gym. That's a different story. But I body lock this guy and take him down in the cameras, and apparently it was an impressive takedown because all the guys that ran control, they were just like, a security wanted control, like, there's control, go ahead. And they're always like really rude and really rude to everybody. After that night, they were really nice to me, and they were like, hey, nice throw, Tom. So I guess I got a nice throw, which was nice. Got on his back. Put the RNC, and I start kind of coming to in the fuel of a fight, I guess, at this point. And the security guards, of course, have surrounded us. He's belly down. He just got put out, and they're using that time to handcuff him. But with those said, hand wire, microphone, earpiece wiring, it actually mine got caught in the handcuffing. So now I'm attached to this guy. So we bring him up, and now we're doing the number where we're escorting him off proper, or not. Now we're taking him back inside to our holding. We have holding cells for Metro. All casinos do here. So wait for Metro to come. So now we're taking him back inside to holding. I've got an underhook on this side. Another guy's got the underhook on that arm, and we're walking him in. Security guards all around, right? It's kind of a big scene. I have the guy's posture broken kind of for a reason. He's still kind of fighting. This is a big dude. He's come to. I didn't land any concussive blows on him. I don't think any of my other guards did. So it's not like the guy got beat up. He just got put out. Like, he's still fine, right? And
now, for those that are just listening on the radio, explain that hold that you said.
Yeah, just kind of like an underhook. I'm reaching under. The guy's, he's got his hands handcuffed behind his back, so I'm looping through where his bicep and his kind of lats and up until like kind of you're giving a guy a pat on the back, right? And the other guy has the same grip mirrored from the other side, so we have a control on him. Except I'm posturing him down. I'm breaking him downward, so he's kind of bent over, having to walk. You're less powerful. You're less on balance, and I'm not a very big guy, and I'm tied to this guy. So my 5'9", 5'10", for being generous, is having makes it easier for the 6'3", and it kills two birds with one stone. I guess my security manager didn't understand that. He thought maybe I was in the heat of the fight, maybe being overkill. He was like, Tom, relax. You can bring him up a bit. And at this point, we're back into the casino, and this is in front of the only bar that's open at this point, the Sunday Lounge on a Sunday night. So everybody, all the locals are there. So it's kind of all eyes on. And even though we're in the right, we're security, we keep everybody safe. You got to keep up a certain image, right? You can't say words like fire, for example, or certain things when you work in a casino. You have to keep up an image. So I was like, all right, you want me to, I guess, put this guy up right? As soon as I do, he throws a kick, a high kick. And this comes in hand. I don't know if this guy does martial arts because he makes a comment later. I didn't tell you this part of the story. He does a high kick, and he actually hits the guy. I don't know how hard, but he hits the guy next to me. Thankfully, he didn't throw it at me. And as soon as he does that, I sweep out his supporting leg, and he goes, again, he's handcuffed. He goes face first on the hard marble floor. You hear a thud, almost like cartoon, like you kind of start seeing the blood kind of start pooling. And all of a sudden, the same security managers go. I look back at him. He goes, "All right, guys, up." It was kind of like a comedic thing where he goes, "Up, up," like motioning his hands. "All right, guys, up, up, and away. Let's get him to holding." And we just, Weekend at Bernie's. This guy who's just unconscious at this point now. We pick him back up, take him into holding, and as he's coming to, I'm writing my reports, waiting for Metro to come down here. And this is kind of funny. And no joke, I'm not making this up. And maybe he followed MMA, so while he threw the kick, he goes, I just hear, he's coming to. I'm writing my report. Lyoto Machida. I turn around, he looks at me, he goes, Lyoto Machida! I got fucked up by Lyoto Machida.
No shit.
And I was laughing my ass. It was hilarious. Yeah, it was hilarious.
Oh.
And statute of limitations, 10 years. We also have police liaisons and whatnot that work, and I was kind of worried because I'm like, dude, this guy got really messed up. Like, I was actually worried for the guy. Like, did he break his orbital? What happened? And he definitely sustained some damage, and I won't get into it. And all I'll just say, I was like, hey, about that, I'm a little worried about that. And they were like, yeah, don't worry, Dan. We looked over the cameras, and he tripped and fell. So that's that. Oh, that's how they do things. The old school Vegas still exists around here, guys. So there's that story.
Damn. I love the Lyoto Machida at the end, too.
I'm not even making that up. That's hand of God.
Wow.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
All right, folks, you can continue calling throughout the show if you want to submit a Hagler Hearns pick for. Let me explain it better. In boxing, there was an iconic fight between Marvin Hagler and Tommy Hearns, and we're trying to pick the Hagler Hearns of MMA. So, bigger names would be nice. A title fight, there's a few things that if they can mirror it, great. But we're not too picky over here. So far, we've heard from Hal from Chicago. He said Michael Chandler versus Eddie Alvarez. Brandon from Louisville said Nick Diaz versus Paul Daley, which is also what I said. Mark from Toronto said Frankie Edgar versus Gray Maynard 3. Marco from Waco said Jones versus Gustafson 1. Go said Diaz versus Takanori Gomi at Pride 33. So, Goes, you'll alert me if we get a call. Dan, you still thinking about yours?
I'm still thinking about mine, but I'll pop in.
Here's some great fights that I thought about when you said, hey, what is the, and then I'll tell you why I ruled them out. Griffin and Bonner was a huge moment in the UFC history. They went back and forth. It looks like both are in a Hall of Fame technically. It wasn't a title fight, and it did go the distance. So there's a couple reasons why you also wouldn't include it. Henderson and Hua. It wasn't a title fight, but it involved two guys that are Hall of Famers, iconic figures in the sport. It went back and forth. It did go the distance, so it going the distance and not being a title fight, I feel like, well, okay, maybe we leave that one off to the side. I thought of Hunt versus Bigfoot 1. Hunt probably Hall of Fame. I don't know about Bigfoot, probably not. And also, it went the distance. Wasn't for a title fight. So great fights, and there's just reason to pick at it. But more than anything, man, this is a talk show where we're just having a lively conversation.
Right.
So there's really no wrong answer.
That's right.
Except for Fedor Randleman, I don't know about that one. But I think we took it easy on the caller with that one.
I will say one dynamic that I agree on the dynamics we already said, but one dynamic I keep thinking about when we talk about this, I want to see not just a momentum swing, I want to see one guy working towards something. Nice. I want to see Hagler, the Hagler, so to speak, working towards something and getting hurt, but eventually getting that payoff, because that was kind of the story of that fight, right? Hagler getting hurt, having to deal with the problems everybody thought they would with Hearns, but he eventually, and you got to see that. I want to see a guy working towards something, right?
Yeah, and Hearns went on to fight and still win a few other titles after that for many years. Hagler only had like 2 more fights, and one of them was the loss to Sugar Ray. So that was like the close of his career. A huge moment with the win, and then a moment that haunted him for many years with the loss. All right, caller?
Yeah.
Who do we got?
We have Buffalo Blue.
What's up, Buffalo Blue? How you doing?
What's up, guys? How y'all doing?
Good, thank you.
Blue.
Good. So my first thought was Diaz versus Gomi, like Go said, but
nice.
Then when somebody mentioned grappling, I tried to think of something a little down that avenue. Big fight. Tate versus Rousey 1.
Tate versus Rousey 1. Okay.
Rousey gets her down, gets the arm bar, gets reversed. Misha's got the rear naked choke as they go back down. Rousey flips that and then hyperextends or breaks or whatever she did to her arm at that point. And one round just good back and forth. And that was the fight for me that made me really, really all in on like women's MMA.
Now, what did you think of Tate versus Ngannou?
Like, that's a good one too, but it felt like one-way traffic for 2 rounds.
I was at that one. I remember. I think you were there with me.
That's what?
Tate and Ngannou. Weren't we at Mandalay Bay for that?
No, I wasn't at that one.
No?
Okay. All right. Good stuff, Buffalo Blue. Like it.
All right, guys. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Let's go to Biff in Chicago.
I'd have to re-watch it. All I know is I was really interested in the fight. And I remember Misha working her way back to the feet, but then initiating takedowns. And I was like, what are you doing? Because I didn't want her down there. You know what I mean? She did that a few times. But she said a little bit of emotion played into that because we asked her that on the show. And she said she really wanted to maybe look at submitting, Rousey. And she was very, very competitive in that fight. But eventually, Ronda Rousey won, and then there was the no handshake. Yeah, memorable fight. All right, who's next?
Biff in Chicago.
Biff in Chicago, what's up?
Since when did you become the physical type? Sorry.
Yeah, my Rob Lawler versus Melvin Manhoef.
Ooh.
Nice.
Fight.
Yes.
Robbie Lawler's getting his leg kicked out of the ring damn near.
Ooh, that's right.
It ends with a brutal knockout. That's my suggestion. It's also my favorite fight to show people just getting into the sport because they don't really understand leg kicks are effective. And that fight sure shows it's effective.
Biff.
I thought he was on his way out, dude, with those kicks. It's just a matter
of
time.
Oh, yeah. As soon as the fight's over, he can barely walk. He was putting on a brave face. Super tough guy, obviously.
Yeah, I want to rewatch that one, too.
That was good. Yeah. Now I'm just thinking of Back to the Future quotes. I'm sorry, guys. Biff.
I caught that when you said
Biff,
it.
Oh, sorry.
get your damn hands off of her.
Thanks, Biff, for the call.
Have a good one, guys.
All right, you too.
Yeah, have a good one.
Josh, we got time for one more?
Why not?
All right. Let's go with Ben from New Zealand. Give us a second, only because Ben's calling from New Zealand, man. I mean, we got to get him on.
All right, Ben, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing sweet. I think this one did go the distance, but UFC 179, Jose Aldo Jr. versus Chad Money Mendes 2.
Yeah.
One of the greatest fights in UFC history.
Great.
Yeah, that one went one round, right? Okay, and that's when he...
Well, you can say the first one, they went one round, or you can say the second one, that was one of the greatest back-and-forth fights in UFC history.
You know, it's funny, a lot of these fights that are coming up, guys, are on my top, like the featherweight wars list. This was on my top 5 featherweight wars. So was the one George said with Dominic Jabouin. The 1-round fight that someone mentioned earlier made my bantamweight battles. And that was I love those little those solid mentions. Number 1, round 1, I think, in that fight. To your point, Ben, was just amazing. That was.
He threw me off. I thought he was saying the fight that ended when.
Oh,
when he caught him
I got you. Yeah, the first one.
Okay. On that for a second, but yeah, Chad meant. One thing that I remember about that fight. One of our longtime callers, from San Diego, Ahmad, he goes, "Watch how Chad Mendes is going to use his leg kicks against Aldo." And Goes and I think fell out of our chairs. We're like, "Aldo's the champ.
That's crazy.
He's the one that uses the leg kicks." Ha ha ha. Ahmad got fried on Facebook and Twitter and MySpace or whatever the hell we were on those days.
Wow.
All of a sudden, Chad Mendes is actually teeing up Aldo's legs. And I was like, whoa. Of course, Ahmad called in the following Monday.
I remember that. I remember that call because of that.
Yeah, but
that's crazy.
That was a great one, Ben, from New Zealand.
Yeah, good one, Ben.
Man, I miss Ahmad. You guys just made me miss Ahmad. He sometimes chimes in the combat chat.
I miss him, too. If you see him, tell him to call in, all right, my man?
Yeah.
We got to make it a quick one today, though, because we got John Morgan coming up. So thanks for calling in all the way from New Zealand. It's Ben from New Zealand. And we'll be right back, folks, after this quick break.
During the commercial break, they were probably talking smack about their next guest, but now they're going to act like they're all cool with him. Here they are, George and Goes.
All right, we're back. Joining us now on the hotline is John Morgan. He's out in Phoenix, Arizona, covering UFC on ESPN1. That's headlined by Francis Ngannou versus Cain Velasquez. What's up, John Morgan? How you doing?
Man, it's a crazy night of fights, dude. We've been covering the media day all day there here in Phoenix, and now I'm sitting here with Ken Hathaway. We got Invicta pulled up on one screen. We got Bellator pulled up on another. We got LFA starting in just a little bit. Dude, I love it, man. Don't talk to me about oversaturation. Give me all the fights I can get, man.
John, who do you like between Pro Gonzalez and Vanessa Porto, and then Sergey Karatanov and Matt Mitrione? Give me your quick versions.
Woo, tough one, man. I like Pro Gonzalez. She's on a roll, but Vanessa Porto is no joke. I like this matchup a lot. I think I'm going to go with Pro Gonzalez and go with the hot hand, but Porto is a tough one. And, good matchup in the other one as well. I think I like Matt Mitrione. A little bit quicker, a little bit more naturally athletic at this point. Karatanov hits hard, but I think I'm going meathead there.
You know, in 2007 in L.A. at I think it was the Shrine Auditorium, I actually saw Vanessa Porto fight in Fatal Femmes.
Oh, wow.
It was an all-female organization, and a lot of us there, including myself, I'll take this one, we were like, hey, this was pretty cool, but I don't know if an all-female, would last. And look at how, Invicta's thriving on UFC Fight Pass. Yeah. They've had a lot of great fighters come through there, and they, even when the UFC came through and took a lot of talent off the shelves, they restocked, and good for them, man. They're the highest-rated show, like I said, on UFC Fight Pass. So I hope they have a great fight tonight. Fight card tonight. They have 3 title fights, if I'm not mistaken, including the one we just spoke about.
But by the way, Vanessa Porto, if you're playing 7 degrees of separation, she's a great pick if you're doing like just for female MMA fighters. If you go look at her resume, imagine. Oh man,
yeah. All right, so John, the return of Cain Velasquez, man, and in his home state. I thought it was a nice booking to have him there in his home state, and it's against the guy who. Look, man, 2 fights ago, we were like, oh, I think Ngannou might be done after Miocic, and then the poor showing versus Derek Lewis. And then he comes back, dude, and looks great against a guy that was soaring in Curtis Blades. So I'm pumped for this main event fight.
I am too. To be honest with you, when it was first announced, it didn't really hit me right. I was like, I don't know if I'm feeling this one. But then you get here this week, and you finally get a chance to put your eyes on Cain Velasquez again. You see him work out. You see the enthusiasm, the energy that he's bringing. I mean, he's happy to be here. Normally you think of Cain, and you think of a guy that's, kind of ho-hum and not really all that caring about media and that sort of stuff. But, man, he was fired up to be in front of the Arizona crowd for open workouts. At media day, he's smiling. He's giving great interviews. It looks like he's in a really good spot. And he says, listen, this time away was good for me, man. I healed up some nagging injuries. I kind of got mentally refocused as well, kind of refreshed, recharged my battery. So, I think Cain is back. Meanwhile, Francis Ngannou, listen, the guy's rise was meteoric to the top, and then, the downside, it seemed, was just as quick. But he said, listen, this past year for me has been an incredible lesson. I've learned so much. I've matured as a person. Mentally, physically, I understand now better what it takes to compete at this level and to be a high-level fighter like this. So, he seems in an incredibly great place as well, relaxed. And they had a great face-off today. It's not anger. It's 2 guys that are cool with each other, but, respectful, but know it's going to be a great challenge. So, yeah, I'll be honest with you, man. As this thing gets closer, man, I'm getting pretty excited for it.
John, when you think about this matchup, what I'm trying to figure out from the matchmaker's perspective, from the UFC's perspective, is there something that they want to come out of this? Because I look at it, and I'm trying to think, okay, if you really want Cain Velasquez to win, I'm not so sure that you give him a guy like Francis Ngannou or vice versa. Is it just one of those where they go, hey, at least we know a beast is going to come out of this somehow?
I think that's the case. I think you feel like either way you're getting good promotion from one guy or the other. It's either Francis Ngannou is, once again a relevant title contender because he just beat a former champion of Cain Velasquez. He'll probably have to answer some questions about his wrestling if he is to get a victory. So I think he would get some shine. Meanwhile, like you said, if Cain comes back, if you beat Francis Ngannou for his 3rd straight loss, I don't know if it looks that good. But the fact that he did rebound, the fact that he got back in the win column, showed his danger again. I think if Cain is able to prove victorious, he gets some shine as well. Now he gets to, not challenge for the title, of course, because he's not going to fight Daniel Cormier, but at least is relevant there. And if Cormier does step aside, sometime later this year, maybe Cain is the heir apparent. So yeah, I don't feel like the UFC is necessarily angling one way or the other. I just feel like this is a good booking for them because I feel like they get a marketable guy one way or the other depending on the result.
I have a quick theory, guys. Cain Velasquez, the worst thing that ever happened to him, you guys are going to laugh your ass off, is probably the JDS trilogy, and I'll tell you why. Cain Velasquez has looked good against Travis Brown. He looked good against Nogueira. He didn't look good early on against Congo, but then he came back and won that one.
Right, yeah.
Like, he's
dominated Rothwell.
Yeah, he's literally had some great fights, but I think the JDS, what happened was, in one of them he lost, and in the other two he was so dominant that the fights were, in a way, kind of boring, So that was such a big highlight and took him so much time, that and, the Bigfoot fights, that really he's kind of, we've been a little unfair with him. Like, we don't think of him as an exciting heavyweight, but I think this could really, really be quite a showdown on the feet.
Can I add on to that unfair note and bounce it back to John? And, John, you said Cain's coming off in a great place. And I think he looked great from what I could see in the interviews. But I got to say, you can't listen to the chatter online, of course. And, of course, this is a what have you done for me lately sport. But it really feels like this with this matchup, John. Like George said, a couple matchups ago, everybody's writing off Ngannou. Now, all of a sudden, he's back to being the destroyer. Whereas Cain, who long held that destroyer title, like, I'm seeing people, like, I guess to put it politely, they're surprised with how he's striking on the mitts. They're surprised with his physique. Like, John, do you get the impression that, as somebody who's been covering it and watching Cain for his whole career, like, did they not remember who this guy was? Like, he always kind of looked like this guy. I don't know what to tell you. Am I wrong there? Are you sensing a little bit of that what have you done for me lately?
No, I agree. I mean, it's kind of funny when you look at him and you go, man, is he looking a little soft around the middle? And you think, wait, he always looks a little soft around the middle. I mean, the guy never looked like an action figure. I mean, that's not what his game was about, was, looking good on the poster or what have you. But, he did look aggressive. He did look powerful. The workouts, you can never read too much in the workouts. I will say it did scare me a little bit. If you go watch that footage, man, he spent a lot of time allowing his trainer to throw at him, and he kind of showed a little head movement and countering. And, listen, you're going to have to start out on the feet with Francis Ngannou, but I don't know that, thinking that you're going to slip and counter is really the way to go. I mean, if I'm Cain Velasquez, I'm yelling at the start of the fight, hey, we're not touching gloves because I'm running over there to take you down at the opening bell, So we'll see how it plays out, but I'm intrigued.
Yeah, all right. I just want to ask one more, and then I'll let the guys go back and forth and ask you everything they got. The only other thing I wanted to ask you was ESPN, I keep saying this is the first time we'll see the main card on ESPN. Now, we're actually going to see some prelims as well. But, John, why is this a great fight like Rivera and Sterling on the prelim? Like, it's highlighted on the – well, I get it, like on the prelims of ESPN. When the whole card's on ESPN, like, shouldn't this be maybe not the co-main event or maybe the co-main event or just right below the co-main event? Like, why did it kind of get buried below Jury and Feely and Barberina and Luque and some of the other ones?
No, I hear what you're saying, but I mean, I think people do have to understand, and Dana talked about it a little bit last week. I mean, the way these cards are built, they do have, quote unquote, featured fights for each section of the event. And I get it; it's all on ESPN, but it's technically a separate block of programming. It does get featured in different places around the world. I mean, don't forget the U.S. market isn't the only market. So, I mean, this is a featured fight. And I know people make fun of that sometimes.
That makes sense.
You're prelim. But yeah, but it really is. So, they're trying to take advantage of the booking. Because, look, trust me, nobody on the ground is disrespecting that fight. Everybody realizes what a big matchup that is.
Yeah. So what he's saying is, like, this could be, like, let's say in South America, the Univision main event before they slide to ESPN. There's different TV contracts everywhere. Okay. All right, Goes, what do you got? Go finish up with John, and then we'll go to Dan.
John, just overall, being there on the ground, we remember the UFC staff almost having like a little bit of jitters the first time when Cain was fighting JDS on Fox, and it was their first big Fox show. Have you noticed any of that on this trip? And the fighters, have they almost gotten like a different type of speech from Dana or from whoever with the importance of this being big as ESPN?
It's interesting you say that. We were actually kind of talking about that earlier today because I do remember that first Fox fight and what a build-up it was. And like you said, I mean, almost nerves and tension and concern. And I don't sense that this time around. And, maybe it's because, this was kind of a soft rollout into ESPN. I mean, there have already been some fights on ESPN, of course, ESPN Plus. Maybe that's it, so people don't feel like this is the first fight, so to speak. I almost feel like there was more nerves and such in Brooklyn, to be honest with you, where everybody was a little kind of concerned about how everything was going to work out with UFC on ESPN +1. So I don't feel that. I do think the fighters are excited to be on ESPN. Definitely, man, that brand, I know people say, oh, well, viewership is down and all this, but viewership's down everywhere. I mean, that brand, that ESPN brand still means something in sports. And for these guys to grow up and, been watching ESPN their whole lives and say, now I get to fight on it. Yeah, everybody's pretty excited about it, to be honest.
All right, Dan Tom, what do you have for John Morgan?
Yeah, adding on to that previous point and learning the lessons of before, of course, we all remember, why couldn't Guida and Benson Henderson been featured? We had a 3-round lightweight war to help complement it. And now you look at it, I would argue people can do the math at home and pull up the lineup, but from Nick Lentz to Scott Holtzman all the way up to Vincente Luque versus Brian Barberina, there's a run of 6 fights there that I pretty much can guarantee is going to be you're going to get your fight of the night from. So it looks like they did a good job of really balancing it out. Would you say so, John?
Yeah, no question. I love this card top to bottom. I mean, all the focus is on the main event for sure. I mean, but when you start going into it, Paul Felder, James Vick, and the co-main is incredible. I mean, Calvillo and Courtney Casey, women's
it's
fight.
Going to be a fun fight.
Crone Gracie and Bruce Leroy, man, that's a fun fight as well. Then, as you mentioned, those 6 fights in a row, the prelims and the first 2 main cards. This card is good, man. When you go through it fight by fight, there's intrigue, there's angles, there's familiar names. It's a phenomenal lineup, and I'm pretty stoked for it. I just don't see how this thing doesn't deliver action.
And let me ask you something. I still, making my rounds and always good about it. A plug for our YouTube where you guys, post all these interviews, which is great. But we don't really think of Arizona as a hub like a Brazil or this or that. But Arizona kind of has a quiet theme, John. And I don't know if any of the fighters you spoke to or maybe you spoke to John Crouch. I don't know how much sidebars you get with the coaches. But to my count, there's going to be 6 fighters with a MMA lab representation, which probably means John Crouch in the corner. That's a pretty tight spread. We know how it doesn't get talked about a lot as far as the back stage mechanics, but any of the fighters you speak to, part of that MMA lab crowd, are they fueled by having all this representation, or have they talked about the issues that kind of come with that as well?
Yeah, no, I didn't get a chance to speak to John Crouch yet, but I certainly will, man. One of my favorite coaches in the sport today, man. The guy is just a genius at what he does, and overall just a great dude, to be honest with you. But, yeah, the lab crew, they're excited, man. They're all kind of feeding off each other. They're all pretty pumped up. They're all excited to be fighting in their own backyard again, so that crew's more excited, I think, than any potential concerns about logistics and how warm-ups are going to work and all that. And I think they feel like they've all been preparing next to each other, and they're ready to go out there and rock it on Sunday.
This thing sold out?
Yes, yeah. From what we heard, in fact, they it started out as kind of a lower bowl only type of event. A Sunday night fight night. They sold so many tickets, they had to start opening up the upper levels. So. From what I understand, pretty good ticket sales so far, beyond their initial expectations.
We're idiots. Why didn't we go to this?
Yeah, right? Especially doing that trip to the
We just
the
did
Rumble.
the Royal
it
Rumble.
wasn't as bad,
Why
right?
we do,
It seemed quick.
Yeah, we didn't think that one through. All right. John, what'd you think of that blast from the past? I was going through some old pics, caught you in another version of the blue shirt. You saw that, obviously, right, on Twitter?
I did. Yeah, I did, man. That was old school right there, man. It was good to see that, man. It's crazy. We get locked in this grind, man, and we just go week to week to week to week, event to event to event, and man, you don't realize how many months have passed, how many years have passed. You start talking about things that are a decade ago that we're reminiscing about, man. It's crazy. The sport's nuts.
Yeah,
that was a cool picture.
You saw that?
Yeah, it was cool.
And then, John, one more, actually, because you've seen a lot of fights, and the theme today is, if somebody goes, hey, man, I'm a boxing fan, Hagler Hearns was one of my favorites. Is there a Hagler Hearns in MMA? What would you point them to, John?
I think the first one that comes to mind is Nick Diaz, Paul Daley for me, man. That's one of my favorite one-round fights of all time. And when you talk about Hagler Hearns, I think one of the exclamation points, one of the big, beyond just the action, it's the fact that it ended early, right? You know what I mean? You packed a ton of action into a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And to me, that was Diaz Daley, man. It was just nonstop. You got so much action into one, basically one full round, and then there were just seconds left in the first. But it was like one of the greatest one-round fights of all time. So I think that's the one that jumps out for me.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, listen, you guys are kicking ass as always. Great job in Melbourne, and then a quick turnaround to Phoenix. So shout out to yourself and Kenny, and look forward to a .5 road show on Sunday or Monday, I guess, if you guys got it in you. But
that's right.
Be safe out there, and great job as always.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll see you. All right, we got to take the last break of the second hour, and we still got to do our daily debate. We still got to give our final predictions for UFC on ESPN 1 and Bellator 216. So we're going to pack it all in here in this last half hour. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Tell your boss to reschedule that meeting. Call your wife and tell her lunch is off. It's time for more MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goes.
Get the radio channel numbers and a link to listen to your favorite NBA, NHL, college basketball team sent right to your smart device. Just go to SiriusXM.com/sports today. Click add to my calendar. All right. We're going to take another call or two, and then we'll get into our daily debate. Who do we got, Goes?
Giver Saint.
What's up, Giver Saint? How you doing?
Hi, I got 4 real quick points, and then I'll let you guys go. First of all, rest in peace, Eddie Guerrero, 15 years ago. He beat Brock Lesnar for the title. I know.
15 years ago?
Whoa.
It's been that long?
Oh, yeah, it's really big.
Wow.
Number two, I heard a lot of Derek Brunson hate. This guy almost beat Yoel Romero in 2
Whitaker.
rounds. He just lost the 3rd one. Yeah, but that Yoel Romero fight, that was really impressive. Like, he's beating him in boxing and wrestling. And then
who called him the punching bag?
He was a bad fighter.
From Chicago?
I don't know.
Yeah, he went overboard. Okay.
Yeah.
What's next? 3rd point.
Good call.
And number 3, Hagler and Hearns. I was going to say JDS versus Krokop because Krokop was actually winning that 1st round. And then, like, the 2nd, 3rd round, JDS really pulled through. But I think even the better fight than that, but at an decision, was GSP versus BJ Penn, the 1st one. You remember that fight?
Yeah.
It was on UFC 56. Yeah, I think that was like a really good fight. And then my 4th point is if Ngannou uses his lead jab, like Congo and Werdum, like he could give Cain Velasquez a lot of trouble. I think that's like a weakness of Cain Velasquez. If you're long and you have that really good long jab. So I wonder what you guys' thoughts on that. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks, Giver Saint. Great call. What do you think?
I agree on that last point. It kind of parlays into something we were talking about with John, and as well as between the break, as far as the criticism on Cain Velasquez, which I would argue kind of like, toward Derek Brunson, kind of unfair, I don't know what we, I mean, is he not supposed to go out there and work the mitts, the pull counters and stuff? I agree. Like, whether you're picking Cain or picking Ngannou, I think both camps can agree that that's kind of bad news. But to what Giver Saint was saying, I think that the threat, people are forgetting, it's basic because we all know this, the threat of the wrestling makes the striking better. So if Ngannou's striking percent is a 95% and Cain's is a 72% on a grading scale, well, that 72% becomes a 95% when you incorporate the wrestling, or that 72% becomes 85% when you incorporate the threat of the wrestling. And Ngannou's 95% maybe comes around that, 80%, comes down to that 80 percentile range, because now when you see the striker forced to go against the wrestler, it gets in their head, they can't let go as much. But I agree, if he is going to let anything go, I agree, like Giver's saying, good note, it should be the jab.
Okay. As far as JDS Krokop, GSP Penn 1, I'd have to go watch Krokop JDS again. But I do remember GSP Penn 1, and I would consider it a really, really good fight. But I don't know if it's on the level of Hagler Hearns, for me, personally.
JDS Krokop, I remember.
JDS Krokop, well, sorry. From what I remember, I just, like, Hagler Hearns is a lot of volume, so I'm thinking a lot of volume,
True,
But
yes. Oh, I was going to say, JDS Krokop, I was going to ask you guys, I remember kind of anticlimactic ending for that one, if memory serves, right, guys? Like, there was some complaining of eye pokes, but you couldn't tell if it was an eye poke or it was just a jab to the eye. And I think, and I love Krokop. I'm even picking him here this weekend. No disrespect to the legend, but I think he was kind of checking out of that fight.
Mm-hmm. All right. Any more calls?
Yes.
How many?
1. Showtime from Tennessee.
Hey. Let's do one more call, and then we'll do our daily debate. What's up, Showtime? It's your time.
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
Not much, and you? Good to hear from you.
Hey, man, good to hear from you guys, too, man. Hey.
Ain't it?
I'm going to tell you, I'll say the Justin Gaethje, man, Michael Johnson fight, man. That was a hell of a fight.
Oh,
he gave
good
kind of everything
what?
you wanted.
Finally,
that
name comes up.
Yeah, but I forgot about
Justin
that one.
Gaethje's a beast, man. He's been a lot of good ones.
That's a fun one. All right, I like that one.
I was going to say Poirier Gaethje earlier, but that's great.
That's a good one, too. Mm-hmm. And the monster of them all might be Alvarez Gaethje.
Yeah.
Jeez, right? No kidding.
And this man has been in some wars. I wonder if he can do 10 of those fights. Can we get 10 UFC fights from Gaethje fighting at that pace he fight at, man? I think it's a blessing that we can get 10, man.
Shoot.
No, that guy should get his pay money up front.
No kidding. No. And this actually ties into something we were talking about earlier as far as the ESPN, what they're putting up there. They're the top 5 fights that aired on Big Fox, guys. And my vote was Gaethje Poirier for a top one there. I don't know if that's am I crazy for saying that with recency bias.
No,
but
that's a great fight,
It's a great fight.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on Showtime. I didn't mean to hijack you there.
Actually, that's it, Showtime.
Oh, no,
Thanks
man,
for the call. We got to move on, man.
All
We
right.
still got a lot to do here in the last 15 minutes. It's always great to hear from you, though, seriously. All right, we got to do our daily debate, and then let's do that first.
Okay.
Right now, today's daily debate question
The
4.
brothers Garcia seemingly can't agree on anything.
Everybody knows it's duck season. Rabbit season. Duck season. Rabbit season.
Whether it's food,
Less filling. Tastes great. Less filling. Tastes great.
gambling,
Always bet on black.
I like red.
Black. Red. Black. Red. Black, dummy.
or even social media.
Instagram.
Snapchat.
Instagram.
Snapchat.
The same applies to the biggest stories in MMA. Time for MMA Junkie Radio's Daily Debate.
All right, here we go. Today's daily debate question 4, the MMA Junkie Radio team. Which former champion fighting this weekend, boy, I need the weekend, has the best chance to become champion once again? It's like a tongue twister, and I made it up, so I'm the idiot. Which former champion fighting this weekend has the best chance to become champion once again? There you go. All right, and we're using Bellator 215, 216, and UFC Phoenix.
Okay.
Eduardo Dantas is fighting tonight. Vitaly Minakov or Cain Velasquez. They've all been champions, either at Bellator or the UFC, and they're all kind of on that comeback trail. Now, think it through, guys. Path to the title, how good they are, how healthy they are, their age, whatever, all that stuff. Go ahead, guys. You want to go first?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Vitaly Minakov, and I am going to tell you why. I want to say Cain Velasquez, and I truly, honestly do believe he will be champion again. But right now, one of his best friends is the champion, and they ain't fighting. So with that there, I can't pick Cain Velasquez. Vitaly Minakov is a tough cat.
He's also got a bad back, though. Could he just retire? Like, Cormier's already had such a great career that he could just retire and not take any more fights.
True. But, I feel safer there with Minakov.
Minakov, all right. How about you, Dan?
I got a co-sign there. Dantas, could definitely have it in his future, but I don't know how fast it's going to be when we're really breaking that part of the argument down, guys.
Caldwell's a beast.
Exactly. And then you also got to, think of the shifting that has to happen and kind of shake out for heavyweight division for Cain to get up there. Plus the big obstacle he has this weekend in Francis Ngannou. Whereas Minakov, Congo, you can't overlook him, but he did beat him for what it's worth once before. And if he wins, he gets the next in line.
I thought so too. And Coker wouldn't commit to it when they asked him, because they have, I guess, Krokop and Nelson. Nelson's had a little bit of a resurgence, or maybe Sergey Mitrione. I don't know. I don't know if they want to run back Mitrione so quick. But I had heard that too, Dan, and I don't know if he backed off. But I got to believe he's the leading candidate.
Well, here's why I think, because not only does he have the argument, in my opinion, of the heavyweight contenders to be next, but the heavyweight champion is not a friend of his, like Daniel Cormier, and you have that conflict of interest. You don't have that with Bader Minakov. And secondly, Bader is a champ, so there's a situation where not only does Minakov could be a world champion, but you could do a thing where maybe Bader, and I'm not accusing it, or I'm a big fan of Nemkov, but if picking hairs here, I think Nemkov is the easier matchup, more winnable fight. Not that I'm saying Nemkov can't win that fight. More winnable fight than Minakov, so I could see Bader going down there. Maybe they put an interim up for grabs. Either way, I think there's more options on the table at the end of the day for Minakov to get some type of title.
Yeah.
This is a trip question. You're the one that did it.
I know, and I tried to trick you guys by giving you the UFC option, with it, which everyone fell for, by the way.
You didn't expect us to be
we got
so
like
smart,
600 votes, and 600 of you are 79% of you are suckers. But yeah, Vitaly Minakov, I believe, is the play. 79% fell for Cain Velasquez. He's got the Cormier obstacle. Plus, he's been injured. I know he says he feels better, but he always says that. All fighters say that. They all feel better the time off. But you look back on their resumes, and they've been hurt for reasons. Plus, Ngannou's a beast.
Yeah.
Not to say Congo isn't, but yeah.
But who has Cain Velasquez faced that wasn't?
Yeah.
True.
Now, Minakov also has the lawsuit, and I thought that might scare some people off. But who knows? Maybe that's just a matter of, somebody writes a check and then we're good, or who knows if it's got legs or not.
Mm-hmm.
But I also thought Dantas, that's not the deepest division. Maybe he can get another shot at Caldwell. Maybe Horiguchi exposed something in Caldwell. Who knows? But it doesn't look like anyone bit there. But thank you, 559 of you that voted. 69. What is it? 59. It went 79% Cain Velasquez, 60% Vitaly Manhoef, and 5% Eduardo Dantas. And there you have it. There's our daily debate brought to you by the MMA Junkie Radio team. All right. Since we are commercial-free the rest of the way, let's blast through these fights. Who do you guys like in MVP Daily, the main event tomorrow night's Bellator 216? Not only is it a fight, it's also an opening round Grand Prix fight. It's the Battle of the UK. Bad blood. I mean, it's got so much.
I'm going to go with Daley still.
Sticking with him? Okay.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth. And I initially thought MVP. But there's some personal things going on in MVP's life. The demeanor of Paul Daley leading up to this week has just been different. I think he's playing some head games that I think are going to kind of mess with a younger fighter like MVP.
Daley's plus 186, plus 179. Shop around. Page at minus 200s. Dan and I are pretty clear. If you caught anything we've done this week, we like MVP.
So the numbers stayed pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Wow, that's surprising.
Mirko Cro Cop and Roy Nelson. Who do you like here, Dan?
I ended up taking Mirko Cro Cop to get the rematch here, because rematch from UFC 137, I want to say. They were scheduled to fight last year, of course, didn't come through. Cro Cop got injured, but let's just say I think Cro Cop's looking very healthy coming into this match. And, you take that as you will. But Roy Nelson said to himself he's got some good doctors, and he's headed into this battle to fight. And I think Roy Nelson, people criticize. I actually like it, especially as a betting perspective. I like a heavyweight who's going to hit those overs and take his opponent down and grind out a victory. It's the safest way to go in that division. So I actually,
and he's been doing it.
Yeah,
he's been wrestling a lot more.
I think that's great, but at the same time, you guys always talk about consistency and dependability, and I also feel like even with those game plans, I don't. He hasn't sold me with his performances. Let's just say I think that's a fair and nice way to put it.
Okay. And Congo Manhoef, I think we were all with Manhoef, right?
I believe so. Yeah, you guys.
Yeah. Nothing's really changed.
No,
you're
no.
with Congo.
I went with Congo. Remember, I kind of went against
Congo's
both of you
scary
guys.
if you go. He used to be the type of guy that would just stifle you. He actually developed a wrestling game, but I've seen this fight before, and man, I don't know. I don't know if Congo can keep it up. It's pretty hard to go 8 straight. Regardless of where you're fighting, undefeated at that age.
If you look at Cro Cop, too, it's kind of weird because both those guys have been able to muster a pretty decent streak. But I think Congo has a chip on his shoulder.
And he's a big underdog. Yeah, he got left out of the Grand Prix and everything. Yeah. He's plus 420, 426. Manhoef minus 590, minus 499. Maybe just sit back and watch these guys. Let's move over to the Ufc Phoenix card. First time on Big ESPN. Everybody knows our thoughts on Velasquez and Ngannou. By the way, we do the main event breakdowns that are on Twitter. They're on YouTube. We talk about them on our show. Dan's got his podcast, Protect Your Neck podcast. We tweet about this. So at any point, if you catch only part of the show or miss part of the show, you can catch it on the SiriusXM app, commercial free and in HD quality, or our social media fronts at .TomMMA, at MMA Junkie George, at The Goes. It's everywhere. You just got to fish around, but hey, if you're going to be betting, you might as well get all the different opinions out there. All right, so Felder, Vic, anybody change their mind there? I've been going back and forth.
It's a tough fight, man.
I liked Vic when the fight was first made up. I think I wound up going with Felder, but I want to watch a few more of the stare downs and how they weigh in tomorrow, just to see how Vic's looking, their confidence and all that. But that's too tough to call.
I'm surprised by the odds a little bit. I'm still Vic, but I was a little surprised by the odds.
That one was close to a pick 'em, wasn't it? I think now it's going in Vic's favor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought if anything, it would go in Felder's favor.
Okay. Calvillo and Casey. Any thoughts there, Dan?
It's going to be another not tight fight. It's going to be a fun fight. A lot of scrambles. The problem is I like Calvillo better in the scrambles, and I'm not sure Courtney Casey, I think that's one of her things is that her wrestling takedown defenses have been there, and that's been fine because she's been real active on bottom. Unfortunately for her, the judges don't give it to her. I mean, there's a lot of fights that could have, and I would argue should have gone her way. Especially look at that Michelle Watterson fight. But it's tough. That's what cost her even in fights that a lot of people thought she should have won. Now, going to the ground with a girl like Cynthia Calvillo, she says it the best. She's a shark. That's her water, baby. So I don't want to go against Calvillo there. I don't know what the line is right now, but I got to imagine it's a lot of chalk for Calvillo if you want to play her.
Calvillo minus 330, Courtney plus 250. Who do you like, Goose?
I like Calvillo in this one.
Yeah.
I like where she's at mentally, and I like the fact that, you know, a lot of fighters, especially female fighters, when they lose, it seems like they don't rebound as well. But with her, it's like she just kind of shrugged it off. I love everything she said in our interview. So really, I'm picking her. I do believe she has physical skills to do it, but I think her mental skills are where they need to be right now.
Upset special. I like Bruce Leroy against Crone Gracie.
I like that too.
Now, here's the scary thing. Crone can make me look so stupid on Monday because these guys that are high-level jiu-jitsu, if they just get a certain position, it depends on how much of a panic the other guy gets into. Luckily, I'm backing a guy that has been in these fights for a while now, you know, but I'm telling you, man, you can look so foolish when you go against some of these jiu-jitsu guys, and then there's others that just, you know, I'm sorry they haven't rounded out their game versus guys that might have, you know, 7s and 8s, maybe not a 10 in jiu-jitsu versus the other guy, but they can still use their athleticism or takedown defense or just certain techniques to avoid getting, you know, choked out or having arm bent or anything like that.
You brought this up, I want to say, like on Monday or something like that.
Yeah,
and
yeah, he did. Favorite, by the way.
And I co-signed on it. But the thing that worries me about it is I feel like Caceres is good enough to kind of hang should the fight hit the ground. What I'm scared about is his fight IQ in the sense of him wanting to take it to the ground. I don't think he should do that. I think if it does go to the ground, he can hang, but I don't think he should put himself in there, in that situation. And he seems like the type of fighter that will probably do something like that.
I see what you mean on the fight IQ, but I don't see him shoot too many takedowns, so I think he'll be okay there. The fight IQ, the part you hit on, goes, and that kind of worries me because he's been in a lot of, you look at his last 2 fights, a lot of split decision fights as well, and he's kind of going with the flow, and I appreciate that. I love his spiritual mindset, the whole Zen, the Bruce Leroy, the Kung Fu, the flowing, the switching stances. It's all gravy, baby, but it makes for kind of close fights when you don't have that. Like, I don't sense that there's an objective. This is our objective. This is what we're doing. And I know he comes from a great camp, John Crouch, great coach, who's going to prepare him. So we're not seeing that in there. And you have to know what your objectives are, and you have to damn sure know what your opponent's objective is if you're facing a specialist like Crone Gracie. And I was with you, George. The number made my eyebrow raise, but once I went and looked at the footage, I went and looked at Crone Gracie's fights in Risen. And, I mean, I wasn't impressed in the sense like, oh, this guy's an amazing lights-out striker. You know, he comes from the southpaw stance. He'll move his head decently. He'll throw some shots decently, but he knows what he wants. Crown knows what he wants in there. He does know his objectives. And he'll pull guard if he's not getting the takedown. He'll create the scrambles if he needs to. And I looked at, you know, Caceres, 6 submission losses. So now I can kind of see why the line is. But that being said, I do think, even though I'm picking Cron, if you're a gambler, it's a dog or pass kind of scenario. Because like you said, George, that line is pretty high.
We're running out of time, guys. Is there one other fight you want to say something? You got 20 seconds each. Goes.
I want to go back really quick just to that Felder-Vic fight. Here's the thing, man. I feel like both guys. I feel like their last losses aren't the same. They're not equivocal, right? But I like what James Vick has been saying about it, and I really think you're going to see a different type of James Vick in this fight.
How about you, Dan? 20 seconds.
Excited to see former champions return on the undercard. Jessica Penne and Victor, former champ, and Henan Barral.
Henan Barral. That's right. He's on the card too. Yeah.
Dog against Luke Sanders.
Yeah. All right. And Nick Lentz. I'm telling you, when he's had his back to the wall, he's come through as an underdog before. But I've covered Holtzman for a long time on the regional scene, and he's no joke.
Yeah.
I like that guy too. That should be a good one. All right, guys. Enjoy the weekend, man. Get it. Keep it locked on MMA Junkie throughout the weekend. We got Uncle Matty in Uncasville, Connecticut. We got John Morgan and Ken Hathaway down in Phoenix, Arizona. So we're all set. And thanks to all of our guests for the whole week. I don't know if I can get them all, but we had John Morgan on today. Yesterday, Ricky Lundell, TJ Dillashaw, Macy Chazal, Justin Buckholtz, Ricky Simone, Sean Brady, and Israel Adesanya. Shout out to Jumbo Josh. Great week, Josh. Thank you for that Adesanya booking, by the way. Enjoy your weekend, buddy. And Dan, Tom, and Go. Same thing for you guys. We're out of here. Go out there and be a champion.